But yeah, man, you know what I want to talk about the first time I met you? I don't know if you remember, but we was on a boat in the middle of the ocean.
There's no, that is a very Miami way.
It is.
Like,
It is. I'm like, yo, what's up, man? How you doing? How you doing? There's my wife right here. And stuck with me. I'm like, man, my man's married? No. But your wife, she was dope too. And really loved your energy and things like that. And then I started working at Security Token Group, Security Token Markets, Security Token Advisors, and ended up getting on the floor. And I just see you in your office. I'm like, man, see, obviously your hair is your trademark. I walk by, I'm like, man, I know this guy from something.
I was like making more than like some adults.
Yeah.
And just in the businesses that I had, I always saw that either business or personal, like this number always got in the way of things, right? It made it tough to get a line of credit, business loan. It made it tough to obtain a mortgage in my 20s when I could actually afford it, but the number said no. You know, and a lot of that was my own personal, like,
negligence.
You know what I mean? But there was a component of it. It was like, man, I wonder how much better off I would have been if I knew about it earlier. One, it's my passion project.
Okay.
So it's cool to be working full time on something you really love. But Kitty Credit, in short, it's a chore tracking app. It teaches kids about credit, where the premise is better a kid does their chores, the better their credit score. Mm-hmm. So think of a missed chore like a missed payment, the longer you've had a chore like the longer you've had a credit card. Anytime a kid's asking for something, hey mom, can I get this? Hey dad, can I get this? It's like an inquiry. You know, I had my own struggles with credit growing up, and I was like, man, I don't want what happened to me to happen to anybody else. Marsh,
Yeah.
How are you supposed to? What?
Why do you live here? If you don't want to participate in peak season, then you're really losing out on the value of Miami. Yeah. Is that what motivates us, I think? Is that why we have to? Is that why we feel the urge to go out on Wednesday, Tuesday? Yeah.
Why we live here and enjoy it.
Welcome to my block. I'm John Pittman, the token advisor, but I'm also a bartender at one of the hottest spots in Miami. Here, I welcome guests from around the world to open the tab and hang around for a cocktail and some conversation. This is the start, right? All right. Go.
Real start.
I don't know which start. You ever know when they stop recording, when they start recording? So, like, yeah, she's been playing with that one, but these two been rolling the whole time. So, you never know. So, I remember when you ended up pulling up on me at Moxie's 2 weeks ago on a Friday. He's like, yo, man, I'm looking for something with some Suntory and some scotch in it. So, with that said, I got this right here. It's called the Drunk Ginger. So, we'll go ahead and run it through how we make the Drunken Ginger. So it's not as spirit forward as the old fashioned I made for you that time. I feel like since we're here in the morning, I wanted to ease you into the day. And so this is my take on what they call the penicillin. So it has a little bit of lemon juice in it, a little bit of ginger, of course, pickled ginger, and Suntory.
This is fire.
And also a little Macallan. So,
this is fire. Yeah. You touched my heart, man. Toki and Macallan?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
It's kind of boozy. I took a straw taste and I'm already kind of breaking a sweat. But yeah, man, you know what I want to talk about the first time I met you? I don't know if you remember, but we was on a boat in the middle of the ocean.
There's no, that is a very Miami way.
It is. I'm like, yo, what's up, man? How you doing? How you doing? There's my wife right here and stuck with me. I'm like, man, my man's married? No. But your wife, she was dope too. And really loved your energy and things like that. And then I started working at Security Token Group, Security Token Markets, Security Token Advisors, and ended up getting on the floor. And I just see you in your office. I'm like, man, see, obviously your hair is your trademark. I walk by, I'm like, man, I know this guy from something. I know this guy from somewhere. And then I had one of my coworkers like, yo, that's the guy from the boat. You remember him with the wife? I'm like, all right. Then People don't know, at our office, we have all of our business names on the doors. And I saw Kitty Credit. And I ended up asking my boy, like, so what's Kitty Credit? And he gave me the shittiest explanation ever. And I'm like, bro, I learned nothing from what you just said. So with that said, go ahead and give me the breakdown. What exactly is Kitty Credit?
Yeah, one, it's my passion project.
Okay.
So it's cool to be working full-time on something you really love. But Kitty Credit, in short, it's a chore tracking app that teaches kids about credit, where the premise is better kid does their chores, the better their credit score. So think of a missed chore like a missed payment, long you've had a chore like long you've had a credit card. Anytime a kid's asking for something, hey mom, can I get this? Hey dad, can I get this? It's like an inquiry. You know, I had my own struggles with credit growing up, and I was like, man, I don't want what happened to me to happen to anybody else.
The way this works is, so the parent will assign a chore and then also assign it on the app. And then once the kid is done with the chore, then the parent will go in and say, this chore is completed at the right time.
You didn't do it, yeah.
Okay, and then the kid, there's a financial incentive, or I guess once he gets a certain score, then I guess the parent would kind of schedule that into the design.
Yep, they get reward points called bamboo bucks. And then if the parent will set what the rewards are, right? So it could be money, or if the parent's like, man, like, you're not getting money, like allowance is the roof over your head. It could just be something else. Time out with friends, later bedtime, stuff like that.
I like that, man. What type of people are you actually targeting, I guess, with this? Because I imagine the super wealthy are probably like, yo, don't worry about credit. We got the Amex. I'll just give you the Amex. You take care of whatever you have to.
It's interesting you say that. So, I mean, I built it up, like for like families with less means, but it ends up working for everybody. But I do find like it kind of is like either one end of the spectrum. It's either the time component or the money component that they work with, right? So like if you have more time, right, but you're not as busy, like, so a less wealthy family potentially, right? Like they look at that for the component of like, hey, I want you to learn these components around money and credit, right? But then the other ones, they're looking at it like they'll be fine, like they can get a bunch of money, but they're looking at it from the lens of saying like, this is actually a tool that I can use to help manage my household because I don't have that much time.
Right, and then in a sense, I know sometimes as a parent, whether you be a single parent or in a double parent household, you can assign these tasks and assign these incentives to your kid, but sometimes it's hard for you to hold your word as a parent. And now you can kind of put this on paper in the app, and obviously these kids own their phones. I mean, you put it on a screen, obviously they'll believe it like it's the Bible.
Thank you, bro.
So what was your backstory in getting this started?
Man, I've always been an entrepreneur. So like my whole reason of like trying to teach credit was a little different because I was like, I believe that we need more entrepreneurs in our society. Right. And representation in all different income levels, ethnicities, et cetera, et cetera. But like a lot of groups can't get access to startup capital to be able to start their ideas. So me, having like, why am I an entrepreneur? How have I always been that way? When I was younger, I was that kid with the lemonade stand. Right. You know, I was that kid that I feel like we're in the same age range. Yeah. I'm 35.
I'm 33.
Okay, cool. We're outing ourselves on camera, so all good.
But when we can edit that part out.
Yeah. 25. I'm 25.
I'll put the 2 and the 5 together in a little nice little clip. We'll be good.
But when I was younger, I built a computer from scratch. And I built it from scratch so that I could have the fastest CD burner on the block to like outburn all my friends.
It's like back in the Napster days.
And Napster, LimeWire, Kazaa, all of those. So I did that, but that spirit just carried over into adulthood, you know?
Were you also the guy selling the candy too? So you're like, yo, I got the CDs and I got some candy. And
I think I sold like Cutco knives at one point too. Okay. I was a telemarketer in high school. I was like crushing it. Yeah. I was like making more than like some adults. Yeah. So like just sales or entrepreneurship was always kind of the pathway that I took. And just in the businesses that I had, I always saw that either business or personal, like this number always got in the way of things, right? It made it tough to get a line of credit, business loan. It made it tough to obtain a mortgage in my 20s when I could actually afford it, but the numbers said no. You know, and a lot of that was my own personal, like, negligence, you know what I mean? But there was a component of it. It was like, man, I wonder how much better off I would have been if I knew about it earlier, you know?
How were your parents' experience with credit? Did they ever talk about it growing up at all? Or it was just like, they were just kind of figuring things out as they kind of went along? And then
teach my mom more about credit. She taught me a million things, right? So like, my mom's amazing, but like that wasn't one of them, you know?
Honestly, with my parents, they they knew about credit, but they only had bad experiences. So they were more so like, yo, do not get a student loan, do not get this credit card. But they didn't teach me how to take advantage or leverage those situations. So what I do, I got a student loan, I got a credit card. And you know what I'm saying, I'm 18, I don't know how to handle the situation. I don't know how to pay it back responsibly. I don't know how to understand that there are incentives if you do use it right. And so, especially going into the hospitality as a bartender, all my coworkers are the same. I'm not working in a business savvy spot. So eventually you just kind of like put it on a back burner and you start using your cash, you start using the bank. And now you're in a situation where, okay, now I'm 33 and I want to get a house. What do I do?
Yep.
So now I'm in a situation now where I'm like, you know what, maybe I need to check out this credit thing. But had I known this, you know what I'm saying,
You've been
12 years old, which is super early, which is dope that they're learning this where it's gonna almost be in their very nature.
That's the goal, man. I want them to be like when they turn 18, they're like, man, I missed the car payment. That's like when I make my bed that day.
Yeah.
You know?
It's just something just in their very, very bones. So you obviously, you talked about you were having a hard time getting financing for your business, your credit score is holding you back. How did you overcome that and what was your strategy to do that?
Man, I don't think I did.
I mean, you're working in the same building, you got a business, it's moving.
No, I know, I'm teasing. I think you just like experience, right? Like it's the best teacher. So I learned these are the things that move the needle positively. These are the things that move the needle negatively on your credit. But when it came to just my like entrepreneurial profession, I learned a lesson in each of my businesses. Like Kitty Credit's like my 9th business, I believe. And this is the one that I've taken the farthest, and it's also the one I've taken in a different lens through like the world of venture, right? So like everything else was these more like mom and pop type of components. It did like, I had a cleaning business that I sold. I did auto transport at one point. I remember I was doing tailored dress shirts.
Okay. So Kitty Credit, I know you started off by saying that's your passion project, but you also say it's your main business. Is there a separation in those type of things, or is that all the same component?
All the same. That's ultimately the goal, right? Like you kind of work, you're working to like, man, I would love to be able to do this full time, right? And then that moment's happened for me. So that's cool. Like every day I do wake up saying like, I'm doing the project that I always wanted to do.
Like you can build out all the lengthy to-do list and just like, you're flying through it. Because I gotta do this, I gotta do this, and just you're not lethargic about it.
Everything, like I would say like there's an entrepreneur really kind of hits their stride when like there's nothing in their day-to-day that like I don't have this like work-life separation. It's not necessarily, I don't even know if it's necessarily a good thing, but it's just like my whole day feels like one. I remember I used to be like in like corporate jobs and be like, okay, this is now play, and then this is now work. So it's cool to have one motion. I mean, I'm talking about my project, having a drink.
Yeah.
So
that's what we do at the bar, man. I come here on a busy night, I'm just seeing everybody pitching ideas all throughout the night. I'm like, man, I love it. It's a beautiful thing. I've noticed, I work in a startup with Security Token Group, and one of the things that I got a chance to witness was pitching ideas to investors and things like that as you get your business going. How was that process for you?
Man, that's probably one of the tougher parts of the business. Because I mean, you're just like Dave Chappelle fan?
Yeah.
I don't know, you remember his old stand-up. He's like, please believe me. You know, so like you're just spending all day explaining kind of like why your company will be $1 billion company and things. And you know, there's so many highs and lows to that, but you have to like remain a constant. And then it can take you away from like actually the day-to-day of your business. So, I mean, what's dope about Security Token is, you know, Kyle and Eric, it's two of them really like in the thick of it. Yeah. And, you know, I do have my co-founder, Mike. Yeah. You know, I burnt a lot of the responsibilities, but without me knowing that like he's got like the day-to-day, I don't know if I'd be able to do it.
Would you say it's too much for one person to do it, or?
You just gotta be ready. Like you gotta have like a certain level of mental fortitude to be like, all right, like a no is not gonna deter me, because it can.
So for these young business entrepreneurs who are 18, got great ideas, what are some of the first steps they can take as far as pitching their ideas to investors, and what are some of the routes they can take to actually achieve funding if these investors are saying no?
I would say, man, I wouldn't make that the first route, right? Like, and the thing with an investment nowadays is I feel like we spend too much time in like media and things of that nature, like praising the company that raised $1 million versus the company that made $1 million.
Right.
So like instead of focusing on the investor, like focus on like how can you actually get your first customer? Because if you do that first, all that other stuff comes. The investors are actually trying to like it's like
Trying to see if you're making money.
It's the whole thing. It's like the you know what they say with relationships or women. Like you will never lose women chasing money, but you can lose money chasing women. Right, so like with your customers, like if you're just focused on building the business, you're not going to lose the investors because that's what they were investing in the first place.
Now, just speak about women. Would you say that you get married, did that kind of help you get on your grind when it comes to staying in office, staying out of the streets unnecessarily?
Yeah. I can still be outside.
Yeah, I mean, of course you can be outside. I bet you outside.
No, yeah, for sure. But no, she's like this is my best friend. So like above it being my wife, it's like. You know, you need somebody that you can talk to about like such like irrational, irregular day-to-day work.
Like, you get a chance to run an idea by her before you even get a chance to run it by your co-founder. Like, yo, like, hear me out. Do I sound insane? All right.
Yeah. No. So it's definitely helped. Like, there's a baseline, and there's also a certain level of like there's a heightened sense of responsibility that exists because you're not just like living for you. You're living for somebody else. Also, and like I'm an only child, so like I could go full spoiled. Like,
has you ever used like the Kitty Credit app against each other? Like, yo, if you do this,
no, we have.
It's another business idea right there.
We should
relationship credit.
Right.
But speaking of the future, what type of future plans do you have for Kitty Credit?
So the parent company of Kitty Credit is Leaping Hearts.
Okay.
So we've always seen ourselves kind of. This is like the first phase of the journey. But like what happens when they turn teens? We know no teen wants to use something named Kitty. So where could we take it? So we are focused on something that will actually help teens build credit prior to turning 18.
Like actual credit? Okay.
So that way when you turn 18, like you have something sort of established, right? Because what can also hinder people is just being unscored, right? If you don't have bad credit, you don't have good credit, you have no credit. So like if there's some sort of established history, then like that'll help you, be able to get that first car loan or that first credit card. So still got a lot of work to do in that department. We're working on it kind of just, slowly and surely and like, behind the scenes, not like we're afraid to talk about it, but we're just not advertising what we're working on.
So I know you guys want Kitty Credit in the home and it's kind of creating that type of incentive relationship between the parent and the kid. What about as far as maybe in the schools and using it in their course teachings and things like that? Because I don't think schools specifically are talking about credit.
Yeah.
But if they were using this as like, yo, you do this, and you guys get a chance to go outside as a group, and then kind of putting that team pressure on the kids.
So glad you asked that, because that's actually how we make money. So like I wanted to design something that had a business model that didn't have to charge parents essentially, right? Because talk about like who do we design this for? Like I didn't make it so that the people that don't have that much money like have to pay to actually learn about it, right? Yeah. So it's like what type of business model can I create? What type of unit economics can I make to where it doesn't affect our bottom line? So we built an ability for organizations, so it could be a school, could be an after school program, could be a financial institution, they can interact with the process too. So like an after school program like YMCA, who's a client of ours, they could add things like, so instead of that chore board saying Evan clean room, Evan make bed, it could also say Evan ask mom to sign permission slip. Right. Yeah. So then they get in on the process. And then financial institutions, they can white label certain components within the app. We built out a financial journey, they can sponsor it. Because taking that through a wider lens, it's a chore to get parents to track chores, right? Like, see, we talked about that in the beginning. Like, there's that parent that's active one, the super mom, the super dad. Right. But then there's the ones that are like, man, I don't have time to do all of this. But like, if the school was saying, hey, like, do this math assignment after school program, like now it's like this holistic. And then they kind of like force the parents to get involved in the ecosystem. And since the parents are already kind of dealing with them in the schools, like, you know what? I can go ahead and add some of these home chores on there as well. So now the kid technically has 2 accounts that he's managing right now. The success stories, what have those been like as far as Kitty Credit? And we came across a super mom, like a super user, by accident, like a couple weeks ago. Super dope. Yeah, here in Miami? No, I don't know where they're located actually, it's just humbling to see like people all over the world using it. But like something happened with the app. So we got like an email, like a bug, like, hey, like what's happening? This isn't going on. So I'm like, oh man. So I asked her, I was like, hey, like, do you mind if we talk for a little bit? Because I always try to capture those moments, because like if they're frustrated like that, it means like they're really using it.
Yeah.
And come to find out, I started looking through the metrics. Like this lady and her kid, they've used the app like every single day for like 2 years. So like, I mean, you build it, it kind of works, but you're like, oh, you use this. Like it works for you. So it was just cool.
How old was the kid?
I don't remember.
Okay. Did you see what type of tasks they were using it for? Because I mean, obviously everybody has a million different things they can use it for.
The basics, like cleaning your room, doing the dishes, taking out the trash, stuff like that. But like the kid was like, most importantly, the kid was like really learning about credit, the parallels, like they were understanding. So I was like, man, we have something here. Obviously, there's still continued work to do, but I was like, yeah, you get this.
So was Kitty Credit, was it developed here in Miami, or was it in another city and you ended up moving to Miami to kind of push the product? Or?
No, I've lived here for 17 years. So
okay, you're local.
Yeah. So I've seen this city, expand massively. Like I remember when there was no Brickell City Center, and you could see from my building, which I moved out of, then moved back into, you could see all the way out to the highway, and I used to be able to guide people from the highway, like, no, not that exit, take this one.
So how do you feel about the change of the city now?
I think this is actually real changes here to stay. Yeah. Like I feel there's extreme positives. I also feel like there's some like negatives too. Like I mean, I know so many people being priced out. Like I'll look to my left and to my right, and then just see an empty balcony. Like oh man, you was there for years. Yeah. But I know what happened. That landlord saw it, So I do fear about that direction that we're heading in, right? Because when you start to increase like affordability and it becomes a more difficult place to live, that's where diversity changes. And I think that's one of the areas that like concerns me the most.
Yeah. I mean, on the flip side, it could be that more competitive people in the fields can be moving out here, so maybe from a synergistic standpoint, it could be increasing. But at the same time, I don't want my rent to go up, so I'm not trying to promote that train of thought, but I just devil's advocate real quick.
You gotta buy, man. You gotta buy.
Yeah, but how do I gotta get my credit right. So are you planning to stay here for the long haul? Or you guys?
I'll be here. I'm again, like all of that aside, like I'm still like long on the city. I feel that there is truly no better place that gives the work-life balance. And now that we have like real industries moving down here, like I do feel that there will be increased opportunities. To your point, the one thing that we just have to improve upon is like, so if you look at like New York City, you look at the Bay Area, even though those places are traditionally like super expensive to live, like the cost of living and the wages that are there are kind of proportionate because that's understood. Whereas like Miami, we're still held to like this overall Florida pay scale. Yeah. So like you're in Miami getting paid like you live in Tampa, Ocala. You know what I mean? So that has to change.
That's right, yeah. Well, I mean, hopefully all these big businesses moving out here, eventually they're gonna start poaching talent. I mean, as you know, this is the crypto capital of the world, and they're also looking for talent, but they're coming here and saying like, yo, these crypto companies got talent, and they meet somewhere like Moxie, like how much are you getting paid? Bam, we'll give you that, and then you have that chain reaction from that. And I think that maybe it could help start pushing the pay scale. Yeah. I mean, we're seeing it even here in the restaurant industry. These kids, they're 18 and they come in here. They don't want to work for minimum wage anymore. These kids, they've upped their expectations. They'd rather not work at all if you're not gonna pay them that wage. Almost like being in a bad neighborhood. It's like, yo, I'm gonna work at McDonald's when I can go do something bad and make some great money, or you know what I'm saying, give a chance to go to school.
COVID really kind of had that moment for a lot of people too. They're like, you just started sitting around because you had time. You're like, man, like I can do that and I was getting paid this, or like I actually can apply myself, do this, and then make this. So like you had a lot of,
So with these teenagers, I know you guys said you guys are trying to get them into the game. Are there any actual creditors or credit agencies you're working at also probably get into this as well?
So we have Equifax as a partner. Okay. So we landed that partnership like 2 years ago. It's pretty funny how I got that. I remember I woke up like early in the morning. Like when you're a founder, like investor that asks Kyler Irwick this, like you always get like, hey, like what keeps you up at night? And I'm like, nothing. Like I go to sleep. But what wakes me up in the morning is, and then like it was, I looked at like some of my earliest pitch decks, and I was like, man, our exit strategy, like one day we'd have a relationship with a credit bureau, and like they'd buy us. It makes sense, right? I was like, man, but how does that relationship even start? So I went on Equifax.com, like just who knows, who cares, copy and pasted my executive summary onto the onto like their general inbox, and then it got forwarded to the president. The Equifax Foundation was like, man, I've worked here for like 15 years. I've never seen a 2-gen approach like this. We should talk. And then it just led to like one thing led to another, and now we do some pretty deep work together.
So that sounds like one of the situations where you kind of like were just giving value, you know, just hoping what would happen. And then I remember earlier you were saying like, yo, you need to focus on getting your customer and getting a dollar in. Where do you start as a founder business owner? How do you start finding that line between giving value and then also like, yo, we got to make bread?
I think they can be one and the same, because if you're giving enough value, people will pay for it. You know, so. But in order to understand like how to give value, I think you got to ask your customers things, right? So like if I started to evaluate and be like, man, what would I have done differently? I would definitely would have asked more questions. You know, like
everybody,
from a parent, like you know, you're a school, you're a bank, like what does this work for you? I mean, we've like fell forward, right? But like there's things that, you know, there's moments where we've potentially over-engineered, right? Or like it's like we made assumptions based off of like a brain trust of 3 versus just actually asking 10 customers, like, would you pay for this? How much would you pay for this? Why would you pay for this? What currently exists that you do pay for? So if there's an entrepreneur trying to start a business, just like ask questions first. Like,
I know a lot of people are doing a lot of their research on the internet, and they're joining all types of forums or using Reddit or type of things. Was there any type of internet forums or internet discussions that you ended up relying on heavily to kind of help get you into the game and kind of give you that advice when you didn't kind of have that many strategic people around you?
So like now I use a platform called User Testing, which is dope, but that's not something that you could necessarily, it's not cheap, so it's not something you could start out with unless you can start out like super capitalized. But no, I mean, there's simpler things. You could just ask 10 people, like said, you know, get $250. I give 10 people $25 gift cards for like 25 minutes of their time, and just like ask 10 questions. But like don't ask them in a way that leads them to an answer. Like leave it of a wide casted of a net so they're actually answering like authentically to them.
I love that. Well, we're getting against the bubble right now. Did you have any questions for us, the boys, security token market at all?
I actually had a conversation with Kyle. I was like, man, like I need to know, like I was like, give me a blurb, because I really need to know like what y'all do and how y'all do, so I can be effective in explaining it to folks. So like I'm starting to understand kind of the Bloomberg aspect, and then I'm starting to understand the data aspect, and like.
But even that's more of an umbrella of what's going on underneath within the industry that we work in. So obviously I did some snooping on you before we got here, and I ended up watching the podcast, and you ended up talking about equity crowdfunding. And ultimately, what security tokens are doing, they're kind of putting that process on the blockchain.
I like it. No, I'm a big fan of crowdfunding. We did a crowdfunding campaign. And it just, so I mean, it's I know it's different, but I'm saying it's one and the same by like democratizing access. Right, like the traditional investment model is like you need to have already had a decent amount of wealth. You need to be like an accredited investor, and then so like it's like that's how the rich stay rich, right? Like so how do you like I've always said I wanted to at least create in some form of the way, right? Like if not every round like has that opportunity, but at least in the very beginning I could say like I gave the opportunity for my aunt that says, look, I've known this kid since he was a baby. I believe in him, but I only got $100. I'd rather turn that $100 into like 10,000, 100,000 for her than like somebody that's like has a fund and puts in 100,000 and then we return the fund for them. Like that's cool, but that's just something that they can like talk with their buddies at a private club about. And
I said that's the beauty of what's happening right now financially. Is just now. You know, it'd be a small town and be that one person who's good at football and all the town knows that this guy's gonna blow up. But they're already sending the money, they're paying for probably his food, his sweats and things like that, and they're just hoping on the back end when it gets rich, he'll look back for him. But now with blockchain, there could be a situation where you can like purchase an NFT for this kid that you know is gonna blow up. He would still receive that money, But now in turn, that NFT can be sold for a profit later on once it's actually going up. So on the back end, you can actually receive that money as an early investor.
Mm-hmm.
And so I imagine the same things happen with equity crowdfunding. It's like, yo, I got a person in the hood, he has a great idea. You know what I'm saying? He's burning CDs. He's you know what I'm saying? He's built a computer that burns the fastest CDs I've ever seen in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And we're waiting on that to pay out. So now we can do equity crowdfunding and raise that money.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's dope, man. Honestly, we're actually doing our own crowdfund for Security Token Market.
I signed up. When is it going live? What's going on?
I mean, honestly, when this airs, it may already be completed.
Okay.
But honestly, we're in what they call a test in the waters.
I know how it is.
So
yeah,
you know
we
how
had to do the same thing.
Which is a really good thing that a lot of people don't know about crowdfunding. Like you get a chance to really test the investor appetite before you really start launching it and really start putting a ton of money and resources into it. But we're nearing that up. Finish up the paperwork. We got a beautiful thing. We're actually oversubscribed right now, but the way the process works, once it goes live, like you as an investor, you still need to go in there. You still need to, you know what I'm saying, make your actual real pledge. But ultimately, I was actually in Africa with these guys when they came up with the idea.
Wow.
This is what happened. You go out to Africa, you start being on the mountains, you start looking off into space and coming up with ideas. They're like, yo, man, we're over here trying to convince a lot of people to do this.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time that we actually show people how it's done.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're doing right now. You're a good example of how it's done. And I think the people who are successfully getting this equity crowdfunding done from an issuer standpoint should be talking about it. And hopefully in a couple of years, you'll start getting a lot of investor stories. Much like those people like, yo, I got in on Uber or I got in on Coinbase pre-IPO and they come out whatever 10, 20X. And now investors like, yo, how do I get in? How do I get in? So I think we're in the flow of that right now.
I think you're doing it the right way. I think you're in the right industry at the right time.
Right city. So.
Yeah. I mean, like the stars are definitely aligned for y'all. I'm big supporters and big fans of what y'all have going on. So
same man. We love what you got going on.
Yeah.
And we're on the same floor. That's dope.
Bro, y'all keep I'm like this little small office, and then like every week it's like I see security token markets. So now like I love to see it, man.
So you need to bring the dog around more. That's all I can say for you.
Yeah, Bessie, if she was here, she'd probably hopped up on the chair.
But the drink, it was good though.
It's good, man. I'm actually I'm open.
Yeah.
I'm open for another one, man. They say
it's dangerous, man.
It's
early. It's Thursday. The sun's out in Miami. It's 80 degrees in February.
Look, you started.
That's what my job here is. So I love it. But man, thank you so much for pulling up.
Yes, sir.
It's been a pleasure.
Yes, sir.
I'll see you at work.
Yes, sir.